This is intended for a mature audience only. Bitches.
Welcome, my fellow deviants, to Raw and Uncut. And I am Randy.
Meg.
Izzy.
And for those of you just joining in for the first time, go back and listen to our other episodes. That way you can catch up with us. This podcast is three friends pushing the boundaries of social norms and bringing them to you. So in an earlier episode, we talked about Dom versus Sub. And one of the things that was brought up in that episode was this website, BDSMtest.org. So toward the end of this episode, we're actually going to reveal to you guys where we fell when we took that test to see how it matches up with the stories that we're telling here and the experiences that we've had. So stay tuned to the end of this and you'll get to see where we fall.
Dun, dun, dun.
See if your guesses of where we are, where we actually are.
These are their story.
Right? So the safe word for today's episode is going to be Jello. Yeah, you're right. Jello. All right, so let's get into today's topic. Today we're going to be talking about BDSM. But before we actually get into BDSM, it's important that we note that we're no experts in the field of BDSM. This is simply our experiences in the world and the knowledge that we've been exposed to. Mm-hmm. Some of us at this table are more experienced than others. Mm-hmm. Meg. And then some of us have dabbled in it here and there.
Like witchcraft.
Right.
Some lizard, some newt.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
So what is BDSM? A lot of people think, there's a lot of different terms out there of what it actually means, but it actually stands for bondage and discipline, dominance and submission, sadism and masochism. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people just say, oh, it's BDSM, bondage and sadism, masochism. Mm-hmm. No, it's all of those things comprised into one, which actually falls under that Dom sub umbrella that we were talking about in our earlier episode. Mm-hmm. I will tell you this, getting ready for this episode, I did not realize what falls under the BDSM umbrella until I started digging more into this fetish. So with that, there's many subsets of the BDSM category in itself. You have the master and the servant, the bondage, training relationships, key holders, caregivers and littles, which is your age play.
Oh, okay. They're called littles? Okay.
So female-led relationships, cuckolds, and we could just sit in here and just go on and on and on. But it's important to note that BDSM is not just whips and chains, even though they excite you, Izzy.
Oh, yeah.
So the thing is that this kink or fetish can appeal completely to you because it's a customizable experience. Mm-hmm. It doesn't cater to, it's not specific. Right. So it caters to your needs and your partner's needs. So it can be as technical as you want it or just as simple as it needs to be. Mm-hmm. So most people believe that BDSM is always tied to sex. And while it can be for some, that's not always the case. There are people who actually draw that hard line.
Yep.
So
wait, outside of sex?
Yeah, so I look at it from this perspective. So if a massage for some people is just a massage, right?
Yeah.
A massage for other people is
erotic,
a gateway into having sex. Mm-hmm.
Like foreplay.
Right.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. In this world, you can basically make it what you want. So there are culture or subsets, I guess, of the BDSM world where you don't actually have sex. Mm-hmm. It's literally just about whatever you make it about.
The play.
Like a way of
the
life.
play and
or
stuff
the activity.
like that.
Yep.
Okay.
So, do you guys have anything to add on what BDSM is for our listeners?
I'm a newbie here, so I'm just curious of what we're going to dive into right now.
Oh.
No, there's a lot. We could talk for days and days about this topic.
Oh, 100%.
you know, we might just hit on a couple of the well-known ones, but just, you know, do your research. If there's something that, you know, you think you might be into, you've heard it in passing, you know, there's nothing to say that you can't gain your own knowledge. A lot of what we do is have to research ourselves. I might have been the more experienced in this realm, but there are still a lot of things that I don't even know.
Yeah. I mean, and she's right. I mean, I sat down and to prepare for this episode and started looking at stuff that I didn't realize was part of the BDSM world. And it was like doors and windows were just flying open, you know, and I'm like, okay, where am I going to go next?
Yep.
You know, and so it is, like I said, that matter of personal comfort and personal preference and sexual preference. So, but, you know, to just get into BDSM a little further, you know, we first have to dispel some of the myths and rumors. So one of the biggest rumors or myths out there is that BDSM is scary. A lot of people are scared about it because they don't understand it, you know, and so they automatically assume that that BDSM involves violence and pain and whips and chains, torture, and all this other stuff, which isn't the case. Like I was saying earlier, it's important to remember that this is about your preference and your partner's preference, so you can make it as much as you want or as little as you want.
Where do you think that fear is coming from, though?
I think it's from the social norms that are put around it.
Yeah, but is it like media, the way they display it, or?
I honestly believe a lot of it is TV too.
Well, and we'll get to that here shortly, because we brought up in Dom versus Sub about
50 Shades.
I almost said Grey's Anatomy. 50 Shades of Grey. And we're going to talk about, you know, 50 Shades here in just a minute, but, you know, there's a lot of BDSM culture out there that does not like that even being mentioned as a part of their culture.
Yeah.
So, but it's important to remember that BDSM is not scary. Yeah. And it's also important to remember that this culture is really built around consent.
Yes.
That is a big key in the BDSM world, consent. And so it's very integral in their culture to make sure that there is consent going into this, whatever you're doing. So, one of the other big stigmas that surround BDSM is that people who are involved in it are damaged in some way. And when I say that, there's a misconception that people involved in this fetish are there because they're they're the product of some abuse or domestic assault and battery, you know, or something along that lines. Or the flip side of that is that people believe that they're in this fetish because they enjoy abusing people.
Oh, okay.
And so that's a big myth as well. You know, now, granted, you are going to find certain people that gravitate toward it because of that.
Yes.
But it's very minuscule compared to the large picture of the BDSM world and community. So, you know, it's just like everything else out there. You're going to have a bad apple every once in a while in the barrel.
Yep.
So, the other thing is that people believe that people who are involved in BDSM look differently. Like, so, and they aren't always out there dressed like head to toe in leather, whips and chains. You know, they don't have riding crops and handcuffs in their closets and dresser drawers, you know. Some of these people involved in BDSM are white collar workers.
Yep.
You know, and so you would never know. Unless you actually knew them.
I don't know. There's a twinkle sometimes in the eyes. It's a giveaway.
So, with the many subsets, though, there's really not one way that concretely describes BDSM.
Right.
So, again, it is a culture where people search to find that sexual fulfilling and that freeing sensation of where you are able to be free in your sexuality and your sense of intimacy with your partner or partners, whichever you choose. So, but always remember that, again, we go back to consent is key in this community, and you will always have the right to say no and set the boundaries with your partner. So,
Shoot, in any community,
correct.
Yeah.
say no.
Right.
That's
and
right.
that's and again, we've talked many times about pushing boundaries, and we close out our episodes every time with a safety warning or something like that. But always remember that when you're pushing boundaries, it's your boundary. It does not mean that you have to allow somebody else to push your boundary for you.
Correct.
So, because as I said before, there's a fine line between pushing your boundary and rape.
Yeah.
So, so make sure you have these conversations with your partners, though. Now, so we go back. We'll talk a little bit about 50 Shades of Grey. I personally have, I think, seen maybe half of the first video.
Okay.
I've never actually sat and watched them all.
The whole thing.
I just lost interest.
Yeah, I read the book.
Okay. So tell us about the book then.
Well, the basic storyline is that a dominant male finds a woman and opens her eyes into this whole new world of BDSM, the whole movie book is all about this relationship and how it develops, and of course all the good sex parts. Those are also pretty great, but
The good sex part.
the good sex parts. I mean, some of them,
She highlights them.
yeah.
Right?
I mean, there's at some point, I only caught a couple glimpses of the movie parts, and I guess for me it's easier to read than it is to see. But
Well, I guess you would have your imagination better when you're reading.
yes, I definitely did not pick those characters in my head for the movies. Definitely went a little bit more meeker for the woman, and more like
So Izzy with the long hair.
oh, maybe
Oh wait, he already has long hair.
there you go. So it's just a big, I feel like it was the first huge in-your-face intro to a BDSM relationship, for lack of a better word, which I think got a lot of people in their feels about it, because it's not very often you get some sort of movie show that really as well pushes the boundary on what is acceptable to see and what isn't. So
Right.
it's one of those things. If you have not seen it, and you're a little shy, read the books. Should you not be shy, just keep in mind that this is a movie.
So it's funny that you say that, like it offers that insight into that world, because a lot of the prep work that I was doing for the show, you see a lot of where the BDSM community actually does not like the fact that it's linked to their community, and that they find it as cringeworthy, essentially.
Cringeworthy?
Yeah.
So they don't feel like it's an accurate.
They don't feel like it's an accurate depiction because of it portrays that, abusive side, which is
so
not.
it's mostly aggression, like choking her out.
Well, it's putting her down.
Yeah, more like degradation.
Basically like that.
The anger, you see more of the anger side of it.
Right.
But let's keep in mind that although you might not share that feeling, there are those individuals who appreciate those kind of romantic intimacies.
Oh, 100%.
So
I'm just saying, as the community, though, they actually don't like to associate themselves with that movie. In fact, there are BDSM events that come about that they actually prefer if you don't even mention it among their meetups and their dungeon events and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, which brings back, okay, when we talked about in Dom v Sub, did this movie help or hurt? And so I kind of go back to what I was saying there, yes, I believe this movie spurred a higher interest in the kink,
Yeah.
and less stigmatized it in the community, but it also, again, promoted that abusive, unhealthy relationship, which is not inherent to the BDSM community. Because if you remember a few minutes ago, I was just discussing about how this community is built around consent. And so, and then in this movie, you don't see a lot of that consent.
So how does she get exposed in the beginning? Like, how does she get introduced to the BDSM world?
Well, she I don't want to do too many spoilers, but she ended up starting a job position and met her boss, and
oh, she's banging the boss?
Yeah. Yeah.
The movie's been out for a while now, guys.
Yeah. But I feel so bad, you know. But
Oh, she's fucking the boss. Sorry.
So sorry.
Oh my god. Okay.
But yeah. So that, I mean, and then herself, she's very sexually inexperienced, and something in him being more the dominant can recognize that and kind of pushes her a lot into that, opening up her sexual mind and exploring different things. Although I don't think she really appreciated most of what happened.
Okay.
But she continued to come back.
So there was something about it.
It was something about it that attracted her to that type of lifestyle. So she just kept coming back. That's why we have so many books and movies. She just kept going back. There must have been something.
I guess.
Power of the devil dick.
Yeah, that's what it could have been.
Could have been. So, we're going to, getting back into actual BDSM, we're going to talk a little bit about the BDSM roles and events and stuff like that. So again, I go back to saying, a lot of this culture is what you want to make it.
Yeah.
And so it's not always about sex.
Right.
So typically you will never hear them say, hooked up or I had sex or, along that lines. Typically it's often referred to as a scene. So I went to a scene last night, or at public events that even have safety monitors who their sole responsibility during the scene is to make sure that everyone's playing safely.
Right.
So I personally have never been to a BDSM scene that I would know is a BDSM scene. I guess
the scene. What is it?
I mean, I've never been down that road. So
typically what they are, you've probably heard of swingers groups, right? So it's essentially the same thing. They have an event where it could be themed. Like the one that I went to was ropes. So you went there and they actually had instructors come and teach you how to safely tie ropes, get out of ropes, to kind of, and it's not to help your knowledge in that. Like it's important that the dom or master, whichever the main role or rope, they're called riggers, knows how to tie correctly, so there's no damage to the rope. They're called rope bunnies is the other side of it. So rigger is the one tying, rope bunny is the one being tied.
It's very funny. That's like way down my list.
Is it? We'll get there. Don't spoil. So, and it just depends. Events, they could be social interactions, a way to talk to somebody else that's in the same kind of kink. You might not be attracted to them, but it's just like the swingers events. There's also events where they get together, and it is kind of like a swingers event where they do hold sexual acts there for those that are interested in, the voyeurism or exhibitionism, and which we will absolutely get to in a later episode. But
yes,
we will. That's basically what the meetups are. They're basically called scenes or events. Mine was called an event, but mine was more like a training event. than it was an actual sexual act.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
So in the BDSM world, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's much just like we were talking in the dom sub world. There's different roles, correct?
Yes.
So with that, you have, I'm assuming your dominant and your submissive is still a part of the community, but what like when it's, how do you separate between the two, like outside of being dom and sub, essentially?
Okay, so like, what are the other possibilities you
Right.
mean? Well, I mean, it really is dependent on your what we call your main kink, your main lead. So like, you have your dom and your sub. You have your master, slave. You have oh my gosh, there's so many. You're actually at top and bottoms are one, masochists and
Yeah, I
sadists
saw that,
are
and it's
another
like
one.
you would think like, oh, if somebody says, "Oh, I'm a top, I'm a bottom,"
Mm-hmm.
you're thinking they're referring to like gay culture,
Yeah.
where I'm a top and bottom, but it's actually not. It actually, if you're the top, you're the dominant or the sadist.
Yep.
Whereas if you're the bottom, you're the submissive or the
How
masochist,
dare they?
Yep.
right?
And it's kind of and I think that's part of where it kind of melded from, is because and we talked about this in a previous episode, where your tops are your more masculine, you're more dominant.
Right.
And I think it just kind of, but you're right, tops and bottoms are mostly closely associated with the gay community. But although it does slip over from time to time, like a lot of these terms, they will often call a bottom a sub.
Okay.
Right.
So, but there's not every part of BDSM has to have two sides. They usually present as a more dominant, the adult, the child, the rigger, the bunny, the brat tamer, the brat. Two sides of one coin. You always have to, but it doesn't always have to be like that. It can be what's the word I'm looking for? I'll have to get back to you on that one. I can't think of it right now. But like you said before, like it doesn't always have to be sexually related.
Right.
So
Right. So yeah, I mean, so you can actually, again, I go back to the example of a massage.
mm-hmm.
Just because I give you a massage doesn't mean I want to have sex with you.
Right.
Sometimes some people just enjoy the feeling of a massage.
Right.
Like different levels of pleasure.
Yeah. And then not every BDSM couple, or I use couple very loosely, pairing, I guess I should say pairing, because they don't necessarily have to be in a relationship. There
Right.
are times when it is just an arrangement. But they are, one can be completely non-sexual. Don't touch me. Don't, I need to give you pleasure, and that is my job. And it is not my job to get off or to feel anything like that. So, I mean, there's so many different varieties. And I believe that most of the culture, the gender asexuals will actually go that way.
I didn't know that part.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. So they're still going to have sex with the partner, just they don't want to get off.
It's not, yeah.
It's not for them.
It's not
more
for
you.
them. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, that does make sense.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we learned something new. I know I have.
Yeah.
The one that's getting ready for this episode. But before you dive into this world and, you get past the basics, make sure you know what you're doing. Like you were saying earlier, make sure you do your research, do your homework.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't dive head first into the end of the pool.
Yeah.
Because we'll go to it.
Come to my workshop.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, because using a blindfold or an ice cube or like the fuzzy
The
handcuffs.
ice cube, rewind.
Yeah.
What do you use an ice cube for?
You've never had
You've
someone-
never had someone use an ice cube on you?
on their back and stuff?
No.
What do you mean? No.
No. Like,
Put it in their mouth?
well, they use it to like tease you, and then they put it in their
Give you a
mouth,
blowjob with an ice cube in their mouth.
That doesn't sound pleasant to me. A blowjob with an ice in your
cube?
mouth?
In my like
Your mouth?
Who's
right?
giving you the blowjob?
The person giving you the blowjob has ice in their mouth.
Whoa, stay over there, dude.
Keep it up.
God.
So yeah, it's like ice cubes or the fuzzy handcuffs you got at a party. Like, yeah, sure, those are relatively harmless for the beginners, but before you get into the trickier tools, like you were saying, make sure you know how to use them safely.
Yes.
If you're going to get into ropes and whips, they can be dangerous.
Yes.
So make sure you know what you're doing. Make sure if you're getting into ropes, if somebody's putting you into ropes, make sure you know how to get out of them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Make sure they know how to put you in them properly.
Yep.
Stuff like that. If you're using whips, make sure you know where not to hit somebody.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about that coming up here.
Yep.
And stuff like that. So there's in the BDSM community, prior to going to these events or these scenes with other people and stuff like that, and prior to meeting up with your, what'd you call them? Not couple, partner, whatever.
They could be partners or your
Prior to meeting up with the other party.
your party. Yes.
That's going to be involved in this event with you. There's a lot more of that pre-negotiation and pre-conversation before you even get to the actual event.
Yep.
So that way they can discuss what they like, what they don't like, and what their hardline I will not tolerates are.
Yeah, and you mostly get the I don't tolerate, because a lot of people coming into these events, especially if they're new, don't even know what they should not like or what they don't like or what, but they absolutely know, hey, I pass out at the sight of blood, so no blood stuff, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So the other thing that's important that I found out in doing my homework is that typically after these events and these scenes, there's actually an aftercare discussion as well.
Aftercare?
Which is essentially like we talk about what we liked and didn't like, what we can do different next time.
Oh, I thought I was getting a spa treatment.
No.
Like, run me in my bath. Give me some bubbles.
I mean, you could do it in the
Massage
bath,
my
I guess,
shoulders.
but
So
let's talk about it.
yeah, but it's super important.
So it's again, it comes back to making, this seems like a culture, I guess a fetish or culture that is very open about what they're doing.
Yep.
And not afraid to have that conversation and push those boundaries. So, which is really nice, because essentially that's what we are trying to tell people.
Yeah, I really
push
enjoy
your
that
boundaries.
Aspect of it, because I feel like everyone should be open about their sexual preferences, because it makes things so much better in a relationship. The sexual side of a relationship, when you fully understand that person's likes and their dislikes versus, like trying to figure it out, like decipher it.
I know. I mean, we've gotten into this culture. I won't say we've gotten into this culture, but there is that big aspect of hookup culture where you just jump into bed with this person. Tomorrow night, I jump into bed with this person. What are you experiencing at that point? Just repetitive sex.
Yep.
I'm not experiencing what pleasures me the most. Maybe it is repetitive sex experience.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with
but that gets old.
But, yeah.
So, you got to figure out what it is you like and what it is that your partner likes. So, that being said, what is your hard line?
Me? No spit. I've said that so many times over the past couple episodes. Spit is a definite no for me. I'm still early enough where I'm still adding different things to my list. That wasn't involved in ropes before that, but I actually enjoy being tied up. I haven't really been bratty, but it's something that I'm working on now. So I'll let you know.
I'm confused on that one.
What?
Working on bratty.
Well, it's being a brat.
I know what it is, but I'm just confused on how you're working on it.
Well, because I am submissive.
Well, I know that too.
Going against the submissive to be a brat is something that I have to train myself to kind of do, because I'm not
Oh, so you're trying not to
myself. Yes.
You're trying not to be the submissive.
Right.
Okay. Now I understand.
Yes.
I was lost a little bit there because I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I think brats just like to challenge authority.
Yes.
Right.
And for a sub, that's hard because they don't challenge. So
I was thinking about,
yeah,
your boo thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, how are you? Wait, I'm lost here. How you're trying to be bratty with this person?
Yeah. No. Yep. So and it's important. We there are things that we always fall back to.
Yeah.
But what it's important is that he's okay that I still experiment in different things.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I want to do. And when I had that conversation with him, he was supportive, and that is a very big thing. So I am working on that one. That one's hard for me. I am not opposed to vanilla. Actually, I am a little more vanilla than I thought I was.
Well, never mind. I was about to spoil things.
Yeah, don't spoil it.
And we'll wait till we get to our
We'll
test.
get there.
We probably would have done the test in the beginning, but somebody hasn't done theirs yet.
The BDSM test. I'm on it. I gotta glance at it. We'll see what happens.
But it will be done by the end of this episode.
Yes.
So.
Oh, guys.
Mm-hmm.
I can see where his is gonna be already.
Yeah, I already kind of know too.
So.
What do you mean? You guys are surprised by your own results, right?
A little.
Well, a little.
A tiny bit.
A tiny bit.
I knew my top
there was
ones.
one category for me that was a little bit higher than I thought it would be.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Looking back at it, I think, did I answer the questions almost correctly? And because there's a lot of choices. I was expecting like yes or no.
Oh.
And it's like 5 levels.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, did I answer it like quite on the right levels where I'm at? So
You gotta answer it faithfully.
Yeah.
From the bottom of your heart or dick, whatever.
Bring it up
from the base.
Balls.
Yes, get it from the base.
So,
yeah, so I think that's mostly where, it's an evolution. You continue to go. I've always been into pain. And I do a little blood play, but
good.
Yeah.
What is your hard line?
Hard line. Damn. I'm trying to think of the terms because like the degrading thing, I would not be into that. Someone degrading me. In the BDSM world?
Well, I mean, just in general, like what is your hard line? Like if you were going out into an event or something like that, or in that world, what would you be like, I'm not doing this?
I mean, I don't want to do the gross stuff.
Well, so what is gross to you?
Well, like spit might be gross to you.
Yeah, that would be, I would spit on a person though. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Like,
so spit is not a hard line for you. It's a grayish
line.
area.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like for me, I know my hard line would probably be poop.
Yeah, and that would be really gross to me.
Yeah.
And I would pee on someone, maybe. It's kind of teetering.
That's a gray line for me too.
Yeah.
I would pee on somebody. I have peed on people.
I have not done the pissing or receiving of piss yet. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I would pee on people, but I wouldn't want them peeing on me.
Yeah.
Not even on your leg?
No.
Not in the shower?
No.
What if he was like whispering in your ear, like, let me pee on you?
No.
Please.
No.
Fuck you.
So
the power of no.
Hey, remember, this is a consent world.
Yes.
I didn't hear no.
I said no several
safe
times.
word.
Oh yeah, that's true. No safe word.
No
usage
safe word.
Right.
No. What does that mean?
In this world, no, duct tape does not turn no into So, even with those hard lines and having that discussion, from what I've seen, they typically tend to lean toward basically for safety purposes, a traffic light situation, like kind of layout when it comes to certain things. And so there's, the red lights, which is the stop, the no-go, don't do this, don't do that. Then you have your yellow lights, which are your slow downs. I might get into this area, but if I say stop, we stop kind of thing. And then you have your green light areas, which are just as you expect them to be.
Yep.
Go, balls to the wall, whatever you want to call it.
So you just say green light, and that just means...
Well, no, I mean, in your pre-conversations, like you would say, these are my red lights.
Okay.
You know, or something along those lines. These are, you know, my yellows.
I might know a little bit about this, but I'm not experienced. Or it could be, I don't know quite how I feel about this yet. I'm not saying no, but I'm not saying yes either. Let's kind of feel that one out. And it could these light system could also be dependent on your partner too.
Exactly.
Should you have multiple partners, it could be, you know, I have this red light with this partner because of this reason, and but it's a green light with another partner for a different reason. So that pre and post conversation is important, because then you know where you're going to fall. It's like, yeah, I know that I said this was, you know, my green light for you, but I'm going to kind of move it to a yellow light here because something wasn't right for me there, but it could be totally fine with another partner.
Yeah, some people just do things differently. They hit it different.
Right. Again, you might feel more comfortable with this person and you've been experienced with this person a little bit more. So you're a little bit, you know, more open and free to experimenting more with them than this person. And, you know, so... you have different levels, you know, whereas like for me personally, I would think if I was going to do something like this, if I had a partner that, you know, in the private, like a one-on-one setting, I would probably be a little more apt to experimenting and pushing certain boundaries versus if I went to an all-out like party scene. Yeah. You know, like a dungeon or something.
Yeah.
So... if I went to a dungeon, you know, who knows?
Yeah. Here I come dressed as a wizard.
It's not D&D.
Hi, guys.
Wrong dungeon.
I'm going to need a lot of potions.
Oh, gosh.
He's going to ask if he can be the dungeon master.
Oh, my God. I'm out of mana.
So, with all the information that, you know, we've gathered and getting ready for this episode and the whole 9 yards and trying to push our boundaries and stuff like that and dig into our past, we did not realize that this episode was going to be as long, I guess you could say, as it has been. And all of us sitting here at the tables got several pages of notes yet of stuff that we want to talk about and topics that we want to get into when it comes to the BDSM. So with that being said, our fellow deviants, this is actually going to be a 2-parter episode. Dun, dun, dun. So you're going to have to tune into the next episode where we will get into more of the subsets within the BDSM world. So this episode we kind of talked about BDSM as a general topic and kind of gave you the overview of it. Next episode we will get into the more of the subsets of the different types within the BDSM world. We'll talk about what a dungeon is for those of you who don't know. It is not D&D.
Yeah, following you down the rabbit hole.
Right. So
it's nice and warm.
And we will also look at our test scores and see where everybody's, you know, comes in at. So that will wrap up this episode of Raw and Uncut, my fellow deviants. If you want to know more about our show or reach out to our host, you can head over to our website at rawanduncutcast.com. Look us up on Facebook, or send us an email at rawanduncutcast@gmail.com. Check us out on Facebook. As we're going down this road, we are going to be putting out some information for those of you who may be interested in some of this stuff, where you can go to do your research, do your homework before you actually get into this culture. Be sure to follow and share us on your favorite platforms. But before we go, like we've said earlier, and we've said time and time again through this episode, make sure that you do your research before you push this boundary. Have that conversation with your partner before you move from the playful handcuffs and blindfolds into the more sexual ropes and whips and chains. Excite Izzy.
I'm a bunny.
And remember that this community is built around consent from all parties involved. And so make sure that you don't cross that line of consent. And as always, choose your safe word wisely.
Where the fuck am I?